Kirsten Murray with that report. And now to the maverick businessman who over the past 15 years or so has created what surely must rate as one of the world's most unusual workplaces, with resounding success. Brazilian entrepreneur Ricardo Semler turned business convention on its head when he took over the relatively small family engineering firm Semco, introducing a radical form of participative management, giving workers a rather extraordinary say in the running of the company. As one of Latin America's fastest growing companies, Semco's workforce has gone from a few hundred to 5,000. The turnover had grown from about 40 million a year to more than $1 billion, and the profits just keep going up. The workers set their own wages and productivity targets and select their managers. And now Ricardo Semler is applying the same principles to school, again with startling effect. I spoke with the Brazilian business guru, also the author of 2 best-selling books, after a business conference at the Gold Coast. Ricardo Semler, after the amount of time that you've put into it, can you say with certainty that it really is possible to establish a truly democratic workplace in the modern world?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if I went back to the company today and said, do these 5,000 people look like exactly the kind of people with the kind of happiness that I'd like to see, enthusiastically getting up on Monday morning and going to work? I said, no. Do they have enough power to actually change alone the path of this or that? Probably not. But it's an experiment that after 25 years and 25 years of growth in all kinds of conditions demonstrates that it's a much more stable mechanism for people working together than the traditional business model.
We might just quickly move through a few basic areas and test how democratic a process it is. To what extent is management chosen by workers? Elected?
There's no process other than being anonymously evaluated by your subordinates. So there's no process by which I, for example, could choose someone without first having that person be interviewed by his or her future subordinates. So in that sense, it's a process that's that can't be diverted by management power.
So if his or her subordinates gave the thumbs down, that person would not get the job?
They would not get the job at all, no. There's no chance of someone being... People will be interviewed for a management job, sometimes by dozens of future subordinates before they actually get the job, and they'll do it 2, 3, 4, 5 times, so that by the time the person's finally hired, everyone knows everything about it.
And what about how you arrive at a salary level for any individual worker?
Basically, you know, we as a company, we know how much people make inside, outside, and how much we can afford. People know other things is what do they need, what would they like to have at this point in their lives, what do other people make doing other things, and no one has all of these things together. So we give them these 3, and we say to everyone, look, this is what everyone makes in the company. Here's what the company makes in its profit margin, and here's what people make at other competitors. Now, you have everything it takes to tell me what your salary should be. Now, people's first reaction is to say, oh, okay, I'm going to multiply it by 10. But the fact is that in these 6 monthly budget meetings in which people put together their future, also anonymously, we decide whether Carrie O'Brien is worth $8 million a year or not. And if the fact that you think you're worth $8 million might not coincide with ABC's opinion, and if it does not,
I think my opinion would be somewhat lower than that.
But no, my opinion of you is good. Now, but what I'm saying is that what will happen is that it won't stick, and so people will say, look, I think he's worth that, and he's fantastic, but maybe at BBC in London, not here, and so the person is out of a job.
Your most recent book you called The 7-Day Weekend. Surely that's a bit of a misnomer because it implies that we can have fun all the time and not have to work.
Yeah. Smart American editors, but it's tongue-in-cheek. But it was originally called The End of the Weekend. But the whole rationale, of course, is the following. You look at it, you say, oh, I work Monday to Friday, but then on Saturday and Sunday I do what I want, which isn't true anymore. You're taking your kid to soccer by 10 o'clock. You're going to your mother-in-law for lunch. If you don't show up at the right time at the dinner reservation, you've lost the reservation. And this is how your weekend is structured. No one has any more idle time. And without idle time, you don't rethink anything. And that's why, that's why we've also, the Semco Foundation, for example, has gone into schooling now, and we have now 2 to 14-year-olds in schools where they don't have to go to class if they don't want to, where their vacation periods are variable and they take them with their parents whenever they want. So what we're saying is it's possible to contaminate the whole system and undo it as well.
So tell me about the school system. How well does it work? What is the evidence that it works? What are the goals?
Now, 20 days ago, Bill Gates announced that Microsoft, after looking at 100 and something countries, chose 12 schools around the world, and one of them is ours in Brazil, as schools of the future that they're going to try and empower, et cetera, et cetera. There, what we're saying is the following. When you look at your past and my past and anybody's past and say, when did we actually learn something? It was when you were very interested at that exact moment, and there was somebody who was passionate on the other side. Never in any other situation. And so our answer is the following. Do I want a kid who I said to sit down and shut up? Do I want him there? What is the chance that he's going to retain any knowledge? It's very small. So we say, show up when you want to. And when you want to, you will learn enough for all of that time when you would have rather been surfing or playing soccer. And it's very difficult for people to accept. BBC television just went down to film this. And there's a whole area where you can watch DVDs and play video games the whole day long instead of going to class. And so they set up their cameras there. So their kids must be here. But the kids don't stay there for very long, because there's only so long you can watch video games before it gets boring. And then at a certain point in time, they come back. And if you make it interesting, for example, our courses are not geometry or physics. Our course is setting up a bicycle. So it's a 3-month course. And you start from scratch and you design a bicycle. To design a bicycle wheel, you need pi. And pi is 3.1416. But if I tell you pi is very important, you think it's an apple pie, right? Yeah. Now, if you want to set up your own, you want to do your own bicycle, the only way to make a perfect circle so that thing does not bounce is if you learn pi. And so we set up these courses, and we have chemistry in the kitchen, and we find a different way of saying, this is very interesting stuff. It's just that we made it so boring, and we divided it into disciplines, and we made your life so terrible that you hate it. But you shouldn't hate it. It's wonderful to know how a life works.
Do you have any respect for a corporate culture, say an investment bank, a very successful investment bank, where part of the culture is that everybody's at their desk by 7 or 7:30 in the morning, and the one who leaves before 7 at night is regarded as something of an aberration? And maybe they do make big profits and they get big bonuses. So why isn't that culture a symbol of success to you?
It's basically a military culture. When you think, what's the difference between Colin Powell and Jack Welch? Are they not interchangeable? Sure they are. In an MBA or somebody from West Point, we talk about military terms all the time. We say, our business has this strategy, we're going to outflank them, we're going to fire this person. This is the whole rationale.
This is also the age of the MBA, isn't it? That MBAs are seen as a kind of necessary prerequisite on the road to the top. Again, what respect do you have for that kind of thinking?
Very little. I mean, I've stopped now, but I've been teaching MBA at MIT and at Harvard. In both places, I look at those MBAs and I say, I want you to look at the reading material here, and you're going to find Kafka and Marco Polo and Freud. I don't want to teach about Peter Drucker and strategy of this and that. You can pick up anytime you want. The real question is, how do I keep you at 45 from buying a red sports car and trading your wife for a 19-year-old model? You know, that's an essence of life that we want to talk about. The rest you can learn. It's not that difficult.
And what respect do you have for the business culture, the corporate culture that believes that you have to have a certain amount of fear in the workplace as a motivating force for your workforce? Which
is, again, the military paradigm, because you take a flank of 11,000 Anzac people in Gallipoli, and you say, guys, we figured it's you 11,000 who need to die, okay? And the guy says, actually not, if you were to ask me. And so you say, I'm not going to ask you. And what I'll tell you is the following. If you do not actually go to Gallipoli, I will kill you anyway. The sergeant has orders to execute you if you try and leave. So then it doesn't really matter that you try and run against a few bayonets on the other side, because you're going to be killed anyway. And so that kind of fear in a company says, you show up here, you do your thing, we'll take care of you, which is not true. It's a fraudulent statement nowadays. We can't take care of you. We don't know that this job is going to Thailand within 2 years. And you do as I say and you'll be all right. And so the whole concept is already flawed at the very beginning. So there's very little respect for the idea that if I have enough terror, people will do the right thing.
So what happens from here for you? Because I know you've got no great respect either for the 5-year plan. Do you have any idea where you and Semco will be 5 years from now?
No. And I try not to think about it in the sense that it will always be, I think people's futures are always based on wishful thinking. You don't really say, I see myself 5 years from now in a hospital with a tremendous cancer problem. I don't see people looking at themselves 5 years ahead and seeing that. if they don't have the antecedents. So basically, people are wishful thinking. I will be better, the company will be better, I will be happier, I will have more kids, and so forth. So it's an exercise that I think you're not even ready for life if you actually prepare yourself so far ahead that you're actually forced to follow the path that you set for yourself, instead of just watching and realizing that you can take a dramatic right turn and nothing else will happen. I'm coming here from a honeymoon in Samoa, so you never know where your life is going.
Ricardo Semler, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.